and good day. So, it's another episode here on Ancient Healing Wisdom, and right now, under this new umbrella of Ancient Healing Wisdom, we've got 20 episodes, okay? And it's some of the episodes like in Inside the Raven's Eye, and there's like, I think, 181 or 161, 181, somewhere like that on those. And so it's not like about how many we have, but it's just surprising to me in a way that there are that many. Some of them are put into like a complete platform of information, like survival essentials, and then there's a complete outline of episodes that goes and goes and goes, and then there's like puppet versus master, and we did the personal medicine wheel, those that are like kind of exclusive to content that's developed almost like book form but in podcast. And then these here, like I was saying, it's not like in a perfect order or a thought out order. And I'm just trying to see if I can get them all to load up here. Load more. And on Ancient Healing Wisdom, we had our introduction. Then we did Right Here, Right Now. Okay, that's where we always are. Got to start there. Then we did the conglomerate effect. We did Stay Centered. We've got Sacred Space, Good Medicine, Perspective. We've got consistency, we've got certainty versus doubt. Good golly. Anyway, can't read that one. When I tap on it, it goes faded. There we go. Okay. So, oops, hit the button. So anyway, we've got Mastering the Mind, Part 1, Part 2. Okay. And then we get on to the others up to now. Last episode we did, and we did it on this whole idea of what can we do to stop looping? How can we get out of a negative cycle of thinking that lends us to not just like healing, but effectiveness. I like that word because that just says I'm getting things done on all levels, okay? When it's effective, it's working. It's the combination of the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual thoughts, words, feelings, and actions. And so I'm telling you all this so that you can see, because I think the way that I'm going into this today kind of says, hey, this is really why there's all these episodes. It just, when I was a little boy, there wasn't even a word that I knew of that was called podcast. I was just doing my best to live. I had dreams and visions and experiences through my life from early age. And I remember the majority of my experiences seemingly well. And I've shared some of it, written down a lot of it, talked about some of it before, and ways that allowed me to be a little vulnerable about some of those sacred stories. But what's interesting is I'm thinking about this thing called perpetual, okay? And I'm kind of adding that to thinking. So then we have perpetual thinking. And then that's like this, well, no, that's not good enough. I want prioritized perpetual thinking. Okay, there's nothing wrong with an ongoing thinking as long as you are the dictator of it all and know how to narrate and dialogue, get in there and do the dirty work that's necessary in order to make certain that all that perpetual thinking is effective. So I went to adjust the volume on the music before we turned this on, and I noticed it said 24. Right when I saw the number 24, it just like crash landed in my mind, this dream vision that I had about 24 elders. I'm like, what? Wow, yeah, I remember all that. But why today? Is it pertinent to this podcast? And not just that, but all the others. And then I got thinking, because like I said, one of the episodes were certainty versus doubt and that type of thing. So when these things happen, and because they're very personalized, and in a lot of my sacred experiences on a spiritual level, those spirits seem to think that more of me than I kind of do and others do on this human level. Now, maybe that's because they know us in a pure sense, okay? Without trying to taint the pureness of it. I think that they just know us in the purest of ways. And so when we have these visions, these dreams, these sacred experiences, conversations, communications, whatever you want to call this, with the call it the deceased, the ancestors, the spirits, God, Jesus, angels, guardians, the universe. But in this prioritized perpetual thinking. And then, going back, because I was trying to say, is there an order to any of this? And going back to this looping, okay, what do I allow to loop? And why? And why so many years later, when this experience about 24 elders was in 1992, right before my first daughter was born. Wow, okay. So we fast forward to now, and that's a lot of years. And do I know everything now about that? Is it perfectly understood? Oh my gosh, no. And it's kind of bothersome in a way to not fully understand such sacred information that's gifted so beautifully and powerfully, where when I awoke that morning in my bed in 1992, I awoke, well, without this speaking stick, but I awoke just like this. When I opened my eyes, I was sitting up just like this on my bed, and my wife was very pregnant and laying next to me, and I had this experience that as I came back into my framework of mortality here, I came into it in the same form as which I was in the vision, the experience, the dimension change, the real-time experience in another dimension. I've had a lot of these experiences. God, it's grabbing me emotionally right now. I think it's because it seems important that I had all these, so many. And why? And I'm not sure how to dictate it right now. But it seems like the world just really, really needs to remember spirituality and connectivity and eternal, and remember exactly, I'll just say it this way, who you are. that made me remember another experience about a gentleman, Native American, hitchhiking that I came across when I was on a pedal bike. I know that sounds funny, but yeah. You are, he started off like that. Well, he started off like this. Do you know who you are? Yelling at me, man, down the road. So I don't know. Let's see where this goes. We want it to be short and sweet, so we can, please the inability to focus for all of the general public out there that need a minute and a half, little glimpses of dialogue that they can scroll through at rapid time to keep a focus of nothingness. No. Wow, something's in there.
Well, for some reason I was thinking about like a crock pot for me, and like putting in, like, we think so much about what we want to put it, what we don't want to put in it, and it was like my life. Like the things like, do I want carrots in it? Do I want celery in it? Do I want all these things? But like you were saying, like really like a controlling of my own thoughts. And then all of a sudden when you do get visions, and you've been having them obviously a lot longer than I have, but the most profound ones that seem so true, but yet can stimulate like an anger. Like, what the crap? Why am I having this feeling again? This like feeling of having something for number 57, but then that word faith comes in, of like a vision of whatever it may be, resolution between, a relationship of a family, or a vision of, it's silly to say, of owning a home, of something like that holds so true, like a family unit that maybe someone out there is all like, I don't know if it's ever going to happen for me, but whenever I go in prayer mode, I see it, I feel it, but it pisses me off, or whatever that may be. But the practicing of faith, it almost kind of like this morning, for instance, for me, it was weird. I kind of felt like wanting to get a bunch of stuff done, but all of a sudden finding myself just wanting to ground myself to Mother Earth. So it was kind of like this weird loopy feeling of like, okay, gonna go, but all of a sudden I found myself sitting on the earth. My spirit's just telling me like, whoa, cool off, kind of a thing. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like making me feel weird on all this. However, there's truth in it. I know it's just like I need to calm myself down, but again, I can relate to a certain degree of what you mean by all of a sudden having the signs and indicators of, here we go again, but does it have a deeper meaning now than it ever has? And usually that's where I kind of find myself getting to when I stop, even for a split second, and maybe that cooking pot is a lot different nowadays than it was 10 years ago. Yeah, that's what I got.
Okay, so the crock pot, I love it, okay, because, what are our ingredients? What are we working with? What is the end result we want? How long does it take to get it? What temperature do we put it on? How we done it? We didn't even plug it in. Anyway, whatever that is, okay, it's important to understand over time what those ingredients are, what the recipes become of success. These things that I've called recipes of success, okay, and so now I know what I'm going to do, okay. And this is timely. This is timely. Like I was saying, it seems like something that why are all these visions and dreams coming forth in a sense, and then how is it pertinent to right now in today's world, and then a podcast or in a situation or sharing the most vulnerable, the most sacred of experiences that I have had through my life and putting it in a public format like this? Yes. Okay, so today is the introduction to these upcoming sacred stories that I will share. And this will be another one of these seasons of so whatever I call this, visions and dreams, say, okay? Or, like I was talking about this, prioritize perpetual thinking, and then the episodes of what this is, like puppet versus master, okay? So sacred stories, dreams, visions, however this is going to come about, I see it now, I know it now, I know what I'm going to do over the next several episodes, and how we're going to start. Okay, here we go. I got to get over the wind fields, ground to the earth. Slow down. So how are we going to get, this is wonderful. This is wonderful, okay? How are we going to get, this podcast? I have a feeling that this is going to be spectacular, okay? I think this is where I didn't know, maybe I was holding back, but it is. It's raw, vulnerable stuff, okay? It just really is. This is sensitive material, and I've had other people make fun of that material before, and so then somehow we categorize that and say, or people misinterpret, and so then we might hold back and say, like that, okay? But no. The world or people or someone or something out there is calling for this, okay? And I'm going to listen and obey, as I've mentioned in other episodes, and I'm going to dial into this, and I'm going to begin sharing somehow these sacred stories like this, where somehow I just kind of end up in a place. So I mentioned a minute ago about the one on the freeway, and and he turns around. I have this feeling the whole hour, 2 hours before, feelings even before that, and I just end up right there at this time where he turns around when he's getting ready to hitchhike going onto the freeway, and he turns around and says, "Do you know who you are?" Okay, and then it just goes from there into a few weeks later where my brother and 2 cousins were killed in a train auto accident, and the entire story, the entire dialogue, I don't care if these are an hour and a half long, okay? I really don't. I'm not doing this in a sense to say, hey, we're trying to meet some sort of marketable criteria here, okay? Nonsense, cut, yeah, okay? That's over. We're sharing real, true, ancient healing wisdom that's going to help everybody in a really mocked up world who's trying to keep up with AI and everything else out there, which can be very compatible to our lives if we let it be, and if we direct it purposefully, then we can grasp hold of information and we can check in with spirit. We can make sure, and we can get the validations of truth from facts that are presented in some sort of an artificial image, some sort of an artificial intelligence, some sort of this life experience we're having. But how do we go inside and make it our experience, make it important, make it effective, and make it so that our ripples are really interchanging in this world and bringing us forth to what we need to be, grounded. Just like what Al said, we get busy, okay? Ground to the earth, all right? And that's when we're able to receive that divine intervention. And only when we are still can we receive the most important of the most important of the most important of the most important, unless it is so crucial in that second that somehow the lightning bolt strikes right through you in that moment, and then you just got to hustle. So, introduction to sacred stories. Or pretty close to that title, with several episodes, a whole lot of spiritual facts, my experiences, my interpretations of those, the time span since, the bothersome, as he said pissed, I said bothersome.
Yeah, I love that. It is, I think, when you say society, I think it's time for everyone to come to the fire and hear some real life, true experiences, not just story time, real life experiences of reaching out to spirit. I mean, that's, again, you've done this longer than anyone I know, and myself. All I can say is I've done it a couple times, and each time has been profound for me. And so it's never too late for someone to want to reach out and do something like this. And usually it's just like, okay, and then do it kind of a thing. It's not like, okay, take my hand kind of a thing. But I am excited around kind of this experiences, story time around the sacred fire. I think it's long past due, and it's exciting. So.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I had no idea. You know, this morning, you know, actually it started last night. I asked my wife a couple of questions. She says, why are you asking me this? Because I don't, you know, and I said, well, I'm just kind of thinking about tomorrow's episode. But it had nothing to do with what, oh, wow, it did too have something to do with it. I asked her what she thought might be some of the toughest mental skills that are necessary to kind of combat, defeat, overcome, override some of the toughest situations in life. But we kind of came to it a different way. I'm really grateful, really thankful. I just would say, hey, if you're somebody that downloads, all these episodes, if you're someone that's been listening, if you're someone that's paying it forward, whatever it is you're doing, because I don't say anything about clicking a button or subscribing or anything like that. I put it on the YouTube stuff in a place where I don't even know what I'm doing, okay? I just hope that what's being spoken is real enough and true enough that it does just bring in, you know, the necessary people that are searching for this type of information that, in my sincere belief, says we can make some powerful adjustments on this planet. So stick with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. That's all I want to say. Okay, over now.